Today we're reacting to Mark Rober and an egg drop from space. Frickin' hell, man! This is my second time recording this. I stopped at 12 minutes because my mic was super loud, like crazy loud, and so my reaction might not be the most genuine for up until 12 minutes, but you're gonna enjoy it. Hit the like button, subscribe, and yeah. It's gonna be awesome. This is already an amazing video.
Moments before I attempted the world's highest egg drop. Now, in an egg drop competition, in case you never had the chance to do it yourself in school, the goal is to build a contraption that can protect a raw egg from breaking when dropped.
Yeah, I did this
so my original
experiment.
plan was to drop an egg in a contraption I built from the world's tallest building. But humans are always.
It was a painful experiment. So mine did work though. Mine was the second best one.
To the top and straight to out.
About that, mine was the second best one, and it did not break, so take of that what you will.
Outer space. And when I started on this journey 3 years ago, I knew if I could draw on my experience of landing stuff on other planets, I would be guaranteed the record. But what I didn't know is this would be the most physically, financially, and mentally draining video I would ever attempt. But first, let me just explain what I was thinking. The plan was to clamp an egg to the front of a rocket, then attach that rocket to a weather balloon and take it up to space. Once there, the weather balloon would release it, and just by using gravity only,
doesn't weather balloons like pop at like at a certain period, like not in space, like
location, and then at 300
close
feet
to
above the ground,
the
egg,
like
which would
10,000 feet, I guess.
that we'd placed on the ground. And that all seemed pretty straightforward. So like any good engineers would, we broke the problem down into smaller steps, starting first with calculating the terminal velocity of an egg. And by terminal velocity, I mean that any object, including humans, have a maximum speed at which they fall once the force of Earth pulling you towards it balances with the pushback force from
or 1/2 mv squared. I forget which one you use. Hey, I'm not at school anymore, so.
For an egg, it tops out at 75 miles per hour. So to make sure the egg wouldn't
okay, that was completely wrong. That was not the right what I said.
And since we couldn't find a tall enough building whose lawyers would agree to let us hurl an egg off the side and onto a mattress, we had to improvise a bit.
83.
What mattress? I need that mattress so I can jump on my bed with no problem.
Then it's terminal velocity. That's a good
okay.
start. The next step in our DIY space program was to head back to my friends in the small farming town of Gridley, California, which is the place where we broke the elephant toothpaste world record, where the plan was to set out a target mattress for the egg to land on in the middle of a field, with a little bit of margin built in just in case.
All right, so we've got the smoke charge back here so that as we're like coming down from the sky, we want to be able to pick it out. This is the computer, here's the fins.
This, by the way, is Joe, and he has a fascinating channel called BPS Space. And what makes him especially cool is he didn't go to school for any kind of engineering degree. He's all self-taught and recently even landed a launched rocket SpaceX style after 7 years of trying. Joe was in charge of tracking and guiding the rocket to the mattress.
It's crazy how like YouTube is like doing so many like cool new things that don't require a degree, and like so many people don't have a degree but they're doing like crazy things like Mark Rober, that guy, forgot Joe, I think that's his name. Other people I forget, and they're like showing how like you can do these crazy amazing things, and like YouTube is like taking charge of that. Also, like doing crazy things that other people cannot and have not done it. Like billionaires have not done it. Like what Mr. Beast does, and like it's like changing what team sees and team trees. You know, those crazy things, and like it's just wild to me what YouTube has and like is impacting. Like, and it's just the beginning.
Using these movable tail fins, whereas I was in charge of the payload.
Let me know what you think about that.
Keep the egg from freezing on the way up in a little oven with heaters which would break away before we dropped, along with the mechanisms to release the egg itself.
Heaters.
Release the egg. And the purpose of this first trip to Gridley was a flight characterization test. Basically, before we spent all the time and money taking the balloon all the way up to space, we were here just to do a low altitude test at 10,000 feet, just to prove to ourselves we
I still don't get how a weather balloon will get to space.
World's largest mattress, fastest egg.
Yep.
tallest egg drop. What could possibly go wrong? Besides like 4,000 things. And so with everything more or less in place and ready to go, all we needed now was an official egg, which thankfully Gridley has in abundance. Hi. I'm sorry. This is terrifying.
Okay. Oh, no. Hey.
Them chickens scary.
The history of our universe. This is the first chicken.
Why
that's
they're
ever
black
laid an egg
chickens?
that will go faster than the speed of sound.
I thought they were only like
Supersonic. Mach
orange
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm leaving.
or red.
Congratulations.
So the next morning we got up at 4 a.m.
I'm
when the
probably
odds would be the
being
most
dumb
calm
right now.
to run through all our final pre-launch preparations,
Loading up our lovely egg.
including the last-minute decision to add a metallic streamer to the back of the rocket to make it easier to visually track.
We've got redundancy all over the place here. We've got redundant leads, redundant igniters. Mark has 2 servos on the fairing. No dumb failures.
And that's exactly when
Rubber bands is so high tech.
The GPS is mad.
we gotta scrub the launch. We were just walking back, and the eggs all bloop, and it pooped it out. And scrubbing the launch meant we unfortunately had to release all the helium out of the balloon, which is an opportunity I'm not gonna let just pass on by.
Hello. Wow, that's so cool.
And back at home base, we ran some tests that confirmed our hypothesis that since the GPS unit was right at the back of the rocket, the last-minute addition of the metallic streamer was interfering with the GPS signal, and that messed up the rocket's math in calculating its speed, so it thought it was time to release the egg. So early the next morning, we were back at it with a few modifications, the most important being swapping the metallic tracking streamer with one made from plastic. Good news is there's hardly any wind today. Bad news is about 20 degrees colder, which means our mattresses are kind of frozen.
That's gonna affect the
Nevertheless,
drop.
we pushed forward. Don't trip, Mark. As I very carefully delivered the rocket to the new balloon launch site.
Send it.
Send it, baby! We'll send it!
It's
Crazy.
Oh, yeah, I see it!
Oh, there it is.
And while the whole thing looked really cool,
So we might be in trouble.
we quickly realized the balloon was rising at a slower rate than we anticipated. We're already south and we're only halfway up, which totally threw off the predicted trajectory. And so after a few more minutes, we decided to manually drop the rocket because we were already way too far off course for the rocket to make up the lateral distance to the mattress using just the fins and gravity. 3, 2, 1, clicked.
What the heck? The fins that make it
That's
spiral.
when we encountered the second problem of the day, as the fins actively forced the rocket into an uncontrolled death spiral. Altitude is 1,400, coming down fast.
Well, it landed.
I mean, it was very sturdy. It did not.
And since we have the GPS
Break.
coordinates of the rocket, we headed out to track it down.
The real question is, what's the status of the egg?
Mark, I think I might have some bad news for you.
At which point we stumbled on an entire field of sitting birds, which is another opportunity.
What?
I'm not gonna
That
let
is
this pass
awesome.
by.
I mean, a lot of bird poop, but you know, it is still very cool.
There's no egg.
The egg did release. The fact that this is out means the egg did come out, so that's good. But despite that silver lining,
nowhere
the
near.
fins seemed to be actually forcing the rocket into that tailspin, which was surprising because Joe had definitely run through a lot of analysis and testing before coming here. So after conducting a thorough review of the footage and firmware, he was able to locate and fix a single rogue negative sign in the code that seemed to be causing all the control issues, which meant we were ready to give this one final try. We had run out of spare parts and spare weather balloons, so regardless of outcome, this would be the final attempt. If we couldn't land the egg on a mattress from 10,000 feet up, we wouldn't have any hope of pulling it off, coming all the way down from space. Phenomenal! That's nerdy space talk for everything is exactly as expected. I'm standing in the middle of the world's largest mattress, where hopefully the egg will be landing in like 45 minutes. Otherwise, we're pivoting. And my new videos, world's
That's a
largest
new
mattress.
kind of definition to memory foam.
The last step. Alright, old girl, you're in for a ride. 3, 2, 1, let her ride, baby! Woo-hoo!
Looking good so far. We're at 500 meters.
It's like
Now, in
those
order for the balloon to
jellyfish.
hit the target mattress, for each launch, we'd started from different spots around Gridley, which raises an interesting question maybe you've wondered yourself. How do big balloons like hot air balloons steer themselves? Or I guess even just know where they're going to land? And the answer is, computers know the wind direction and speed at every height as you go up. So on a given day, if these are the predicted wind directions and speeds, we would need to launch here to be directly above the mattress when we got to 10,000 feet. But how we know all this information is the fascinating part, because every day it's
That's why he
someone's
was,
job to launch
like,
two
south
balloons like
last
this
time.
into the sky at
He was
noon
doing
and
different.
midnight London time. But this is done in over 1,000 locations all around the world at those same two exact moments. And these balloons all have something called a radiosonde attached to them that measures things like altitude, pressure, temperature, and wind, and then they transmit the information.
Wait, so you're telling me they know very accurate with the weather report, but they are also very inaccurate when they tell us what the weather is. You know, so this is a conspiracy, guys. They are faking weather results sometimes, because sometimes they're very not right.
Information back to the ground stations, which gets fed into supercomputers, and that's the reason weather and wind predictions can be so accurate.
Sometimes it doesn't rain, but it says it's raining. So I mean, they are. This is a conspiracy, guys.
2,000 of these massive weather balloons go up every day, and then eventually pop and
That
just
someone
land
may or
somewhere.
may not
And
have
since they're
said
transmitting a signal,
before.
some folks make a hobby out of just trying to track them down.
How close are we to the drop point?
Balloon release?
Balloon release. That's it.
And this time we were releasing right in the target drop zone, which was good news on one hand, but it raised some new challenges on the other.
Where is it?
Wait, see on that it says it pops also.
400.
Grab it, sir! See something?
Altitude 98 meters. I think we're down.
Everyone okay? That was
Yes,
So we were much closer this time, and we even managed to steer the rocket in the right direction.
into
just
a
slightly.
lake, and then an alligator comes and
Egg? No egg?
Wait a minute.
It's the egg!
The egg.
Oh, did it crack?
I mean, it's not cracked.
So after 3 failed attempts, we still seemed pretty far off from where we needed to be, which meant it was time for the ultimate phone a friend with my buddy Adam Stelzner, who you might
This
recognize
guy
as
knows-
this
looks
guy
like he knows
from when we
what's
landed
to-
Curiosity on Mars.
Touchdown confirmed. We're seeing Mars.
He has a PhD from Caltech, and he's also the chief engineer for Perseverance and Mars Sample Return. And so after explaining to Adam what we were trying to do, he immediately spotted a fatal flaw in our brilliant plan.
And you're doing terminal guidance to something about the size of a house. How are you going to do that? How do you do that? I mean, I know how you physically do that. How do you not get busted by the FAA?
In other words, we were basically attempting to make a precision-guided missile.
Dude, there are thousands of people who've done this before, and they
How is there not
sworn
FBI
by federal
agents
law
come?
not to say a single word to you.
And to be fair, he raised a good point. The people who could help us actually can't, and even if we figured it out ourselves, the ethics of just slapping that how-to video up on YouTube are questionable at best. And so after a fruitful discussion with Adam,
But we release at about the height, and then we do a lobbing. The thing you start to worry about is heating. You might want to start with a 2-stage.
he knows what
we
he's doing.
decided to pivot, and instead of a precision-guided egg landing on a mattress in a small town, we would set our sights on a much more general egg landing target by heading out to the desert. But as part of the pivot, we completely scrapped our old design and spent a couple months designing and building a new system that borrowed heavily from the Curiosity landing, because we figured if it could safely put a rover on Mars, it could safely land an egg on Earth. So we would still go to space on a weather balloon, but this time the rocket would have fins that didn't move,
It's-
and it would be
it's
3
a-
times as
it's a
long
missile.
and 4 times as
This is a
heavy
missile.
to guarantee we would get the egg to supersonic speeds on the way down. Then just like NASA separates the cruise stage in the upper atmosphere and then uses aerobraking to dissipate a bunch of the energy and speed, we would separate from the back half of the rocket about halfway down after we'd already broken the sound barrier, and because the system now weighed much less, it would naturally aerobrake and reduce its speed to the new lowered terminal velocity. Then on Mars, the next step is the parachute deploy, followed by the heat shield separation, and we would follow follow in kind by launching our own parachute and then release our own nose cone, which would then expose our set of cushioning airbags, as you can see here, which we borrowed from the Spirit and Opportunity landings. It was intentionally ambitious and extremely complicated, but after a couple months of complete redesigning and building, we found ourselves in the desert feeling cautiously optimistic. And that was due in part to our lucky orange parachute, because when I left NASA, my friends gave me this rectangular piece of nylon. And for scale, that's the exact same rectangle here that's part of the parachute the Curiosity rover used to land. So that piece of parachute is actually one of the 80 rectangles you see here as they were running the final tests in the world's largest wind tunnel. And so it only felt fitting that after some scribing, a bit of cutting, and a little sewing, it had nobly repurposed itself for the new mission. So as the sun went down,
that must have been like hard to do, like just
on final preparations.
That's like such an important piece, and you just cutting it up for an egg.
And it took a staggering amount of work even to get us to this point. We had thought and prepared for so many things that could go wrong, and while I was feeling optimistic, I knew at the end of the day, it was the laws of physics that would ultimately determine our fate. So early the next morning, the crew in charge of the balloon got to the launch site to start filling it up. And this balloon looks a little different than the others because it's a zero pressure weather balloon. The advantage these have over a typical weather balloon is they can go higher up into space, carry more weight, and they're open on the bottom, which means they equalize to the pressure and it's impossible for them to pop. So when you want it to come down, you send a signal that will pull down on a string that's sewn into the side of the balloon, and it opens like a zipper and self-destructs. The downside is they're incredibly lightweight and so thin and delicate, you have to be really careful and touch it with gloves. And they were about an hour into filling it with the 4 massive tanks of helium we had on hand when we made a gut-wrenching discovery.
Hey,
dude. I got bad news. We have to scrub. Start taking the helium out of the balloon.
Launch scrub. They had some issues that I guess they can't resolve.
Why can't they just call it scrub?
So we're the helium from the balloon and trying for another day. So.
So no.
Yep. Yeah. What are you talking about? Are you serious?
That's what it sounds like.
Now for context, Joe was in charge of this part of the rocket, and me and my team were in charge of all of this. And while we'd each tested our individual
so you blaming Joe.
systems ad nauseum, it wasn't until that morning that we were able to test the integration of the two systems together.
Yeah.
When we did, it became immediately clear to me I had made a critical oversight.
So, tension compression, this is great. It's holding on to that thing fantastically. The problem is, this is so long and heavy, as soon as it wiggles, it's going to want to bend. Great in tension compression, but this happening at Mach 2 is...
That's not gonna work out.
There's no other balloons in the world of this size that we can get access to. This was the only one for like another month. We're trying to save this one so we could hopefully reuse it, but any slight little damage, you touch it in the wrong spot, and now that's an imperfection that may actually be a failure point for a future mission.
And this was an absolute low point for me. The integration of two independent systems is such a classic failure point in engineering. I was crushed I had missed this. And financial concerns aside, I felt like I had just let everyone down. Not just my team and the rest of the crew helping out, but all the other folks, some of whom drove 6 hours to come out and watch as well. But that's the thing with failures. They can sting like crazy, but it's really just a process to learn one more way not to do a thing. And so even as I sat there feeling pretty bad, like any good engineer, I was already coming up with all the things we were going to fix to get back out here and try this dang thing one more time. And this principle of resiliency is something I think can be learned. In fact, I believe this so much, I started a toy company called Crunch Labs with the express goal of helping kids think like an engineer. So with the Build Box, not only do you get a super fun toy that you put together every month, but you do it alongside me while I teach you all the juicy physics of how it works. We're right there in the trenches, building and succeeding together so the principles really sink in. So if you're a kid and you're looking for something to put at the top of your Christmas wish list, or you want to gift it to someone else so you can be the household hero, just head to crunchlabs.com or use the link in the video description. Now, as far as my plan to bounce back from my own failure, we did 4 things to really get serious and stack the dice in our favor for the final launch. First of all, we fixed the connection point with more of a sheath design that could handle the bending moment. And then at the right altitude, it would autonomously separate the 2 halves with a black powder charge. Second, we ran some vacuum and temperature tests on a raw egg. There's no air pressure and it's really, really cold in space. So if you don't do something to protect the egg for the 2 hours it takes the balloon to get up to space, it will freeze and crack the egg every time. So we tested some heaters in our egg chamber and proved that they keep the egg warm enough. Third, we built redundancy into our system. When NASA sends something to Mars, they can't go there to fix it, so it just has to work. And for that reason, a lot of critical systems have backups. Even the part of my own hardware and Curiosity that accepted a dirt sample from the arm into the belly of the rover had 2 doors that opened to the exact same place in case one of the
Wait, he
doors
built
had my own hardware and Curiosity that accepted a dirt sample. Systems have backups. Even the part of my own hardware and Curiosity that accepted a dirt sample from the arm into the belly of the rover had 2 doors that opened to the exact same place in case one of the doors ever stopped working. In our case, redundancy meant making a 2-foot
That's
wide
cool.
baseball
He's-
that we would stuff
he has
with a second egg surrounded in
pot
packing
on the
materials
Mars
with a 20-foot
rover.
streamer on the back. We would just drop like a
I didn't know
rock.
that.
It would
I
be
thought
dead
he's
simple.
just a
No parachutes to
NASA
deploy,
engineer,
no
but
autonomous
didn't
timing
how big.
sequences, and no fancy mechanisms. This would be our redundant, yet I would argue kind of boring, second chance opportunity to land a safe egg. And fourth and finally, we went to a local crane yard to test both our solutions at their respective terminal velocities, starting first with the beach ball. Come on, baby! Oh. She's alive! And after that, we tested the final landing configuration of the rocket. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! By the way, the actual rover parachute held perfectly. Mwah! And so after all that, we made the 6-hour trek back to the desert for what I was really, really hoping would be the last time. Hey guys! After 4 failed attempts, we had learned so much, which left me feeling cautiously optimistic. And right out of the gate, we got 2 bits of really good news. The first relates to that super delicate zero pressure balloon we had to reuse from the last launch because there was no possible way to get a replacement. Just barely touching the balloon leaves it stressed and creates a weak point for it to tear, so I was obsessively checking the fish scale reading that would give us the verdict. The force reading is 37.6 kilograms of buoyancy force pulling this up. Importantly, it's not changing. If it were changing and going down, that means we would have a leak, but it's holding steady at 37.6. That's a big deal. And the second piece of good news is my buddy and warm-blooded good luck charm Al Chen had arrived. Now, I
Al
recognize
Chen.
Al as the other guy here with Adam, and he's the one who actually said this.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
If we were successful,
Imagine
he'd be the
being that
one to
guy.
make the official call. And so after all the requisite last-minute preparations and 3 long years, here we go, girl, it was finally time for liftoff. Ready? 3, 2, 1! You
He will have to say touchdown confirmed
Everything
right
was
now.
looking good. The balloon ascent rate was just what we predicted, and that meant we for sure didn't have a leak, and things were finally breaking our way. Is that how it's supposed to look? Yeah. And it takes about 2 hours to get all the way up to space. Whoa. So once the balloon hit 30,000
That is some
feet,
binoculars
we decided
to
to hop
see
in the
that.
car so we could drive over to the predicted landing spot about 45 minutes away. So far, it's all systems nominal. Balloons in the air, it's ascending at the right rate. We've passed some critical threshold points, and we're still in the game. 5th time is the charm, as they say. And we eventually started outrunning the balloon in the car, so we pulled over for a bit as we reached an important altitude milestone of 100,000 feet.
I would say over 100.
Woo! Over 100. That's 19 miles up and 2.5 times higher than a typical commercial plane flies. And because the balloon expands so large as it rises, we realized we could actually even spot it from the ground, which was awesome. Yeah, no, I see it, yeah.
Dude, that's totally it.
What
like
wasn't
Eclipse.
awesome was when moments later Joe, while looking through the binoculars, made this gut-wrenching observation.
Oh no.
Really big and then it looked really small. You saw it small?
Yeah, it like seems to be smaller.
But it's just weird that it would just completely disappear. Which was followed by a devastating call from the balloon tracking team.
It dropped within the last 2 minutes. Yeah. That's 30,000 feet over the last however, so it's just popped.
But these don't pop, there's zero pressure. And that's true, they don't pop. But unbeknownst to us, while we were looking at it from the ground, the rocket and beach ball had been spinning around and around relative to the balloon for about 10 minutes. This
Oh my god, another problem.
The string that self-destructs the balloon was getting wrapped around tighter and tighter until it was so tight, it pulled down on the balloon string that is designed to essentially unzip and destroy itself. And so before we even had the chance to release the rocket and beach ball from the balloon, it all started coming down in one big tangled heap at 150 miles per hour, which is way faster than the eggs could survive.
Well, let's start driving.
And as we drove over, all I could think about was how our fate would rest solely in the hands of the redundant systems we'd put in place.
We think it's probably about 2 miles up that way.
This
was a very good, had that much redundancy.
Autonomously jettison itself from the tangled rocket balloon mess at 20,000 feet, then it would be able to deploy our lucky orange parachute and land the eggs safely on its airbags. And as we parked, we knew what was done was done. There was nothing left to do but go on a hunt to find the wreckage and reveal our fate. I see something orange. That looks like a rover parachute. Okay. We've got a thing! And seeing the payload all by itself was a huge deal, because it meant it had actually autonomously ejected itself from the mangled weather balloon mess at 20,000 feet. And later when we checked the footage, this is exactly what it confirmed. And while that was incredible news,
that's a cool
I
parachute.
not to get my hopes up. I mean, so let's look through the window, a little bit of dirt. You see.
Pretty good, definitely touched down, but...
Touchdown confirmed. Whether or not we're safe on ours is TBD, right?
Let's check it out to be sure.
Oh man.
Josh is just not. Alchin replaced him.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Earth.
We're safe on Earth! That is a hot egg. It was in space and now it's on Earth and it's not broken. After that, we tracked down the beach ball, which, as far as I was concerned,
so technically success.
At this point. This is the backup, the simple solution, the true engineer solution here.
Oh my god. Touchdown confirmed. Look at that. We're safe on Earth.
Just kissing all them eggs.
2 for 2, baby! 2 for 2! And as we walked away with 2 uncracked eggs in hand, I was reminded that in life, things rarely unfold how we think they will, but by learning from your
But
failures,
didn't it
coupled
not
with
reach
tenacity,
the
us
heights
humans can
that they
accomplish a
wanted?
feat as incredible as the world's smartest Martian robot, or as ridiculous as the world's tallest egg drop. You know what would be cool?
How did they even
because,
get
like,
that?
I hope you learned something by watching this video, but how much more would you have learned if you were out there in the desert with me, helping to, like, troubleshoot and put the rocket together? Well, I got great news for you, because I got the next best thing, and it's called
again,
the
Crunch Labs, twice in the one video.
Every month, and then we build it together while I teach
That would be
all
cool.
the juicy physics that make it work. You're basically unlocking your own personal Mark Rover video every month, where you learn a new engineering principle that will have you not just building like an engineer, but more importantly, thinking like an engineer. So you develop that resilience and those problem-solving skills. And by the way, don't go sleeping on just how cool the toys we'll be building together actually are. Like this insanely accurate rapid-fire disc launcher, or this
I remember playing with disc launchers when I was a kid, but I didn't create it. I didn't make
like
it.
you just landed your own dang egg from space. And I should mention that Crunch Labs is a real place. It's where we design all these boxes, and it's got a tennis ball cannon, and the world's longest Hot Wheels track, and a foam pit, and a bunch of other cool inventions. And each month when you open your box that comes in the mail, you have a chance to find the platinum ticket. And if your box has it, that means you and your family get to
Copy
come out
from
and visit
Mr.
me and my
Beast, I
son's
see.
birthday, and we'll build some cool stuff together. So if you want to embark on this year-long journey with me and make a sad Christmas tree like this a happy Christmas tree, just go to crunchlabs.com or use the link in the video description where we're giving away 2 months free as a holiday special.
Alright, that was a good video. That was a great video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, share. I was truly amazed at what I could do. Like I saw on the. I saw in the description next to doing this on Mars. That would be crazy. Yeah, just every time makes a banger video. Yeah, he basically made a missile also. That wasn't that good, but still missile nonetheless. Yeah, if you guys enjoyed, be sure to like button, subscribe, share, and see you in the next video.